Now, Iran is witnessing its most dangerous internal unrest in years. Now, what began as a protest over a collapsing currency, soaring food prices, and subsidy removals has rapidly evolved into a nationwide political revolt stretching across all 31 provinces and more than 185 cities. Now, unlike previous uprisings, the 2026 protest has drawn in Iran's traditional merchant class, the backbone of the regime, while chants have shifted from economic demands to open calls for regime change. Now, with a near total internet blackout, reported deaths, mass arrests, and mounting international pressure, the crisis raises a critical global question. Is Iran approaching a genuine tipping point, or can the state still contain this unprecedented challenge? Joining us to discuss this is global policy analyst Alexander von Rugen. Thank you so much for joining us, Alexander. Now, we've seen mass protests in Iran before, yet the system somehow survived. From your assessment, what makes these 2026 protests fundamentally different, and why are some analysts calling this moment an unprecedented threat to the Islamic Republic?
Well, you have to look at the situation which led up to this. I mean, the protests have escalated to a level that has not been seen prior. Now, the Iranians are used to protests, and they have a specific playbook that they follow. Right now, the jails are full. The military is killing people in the streets. I think the amount of death toll that we're receiving is first of all, the information is fragmented out of Iran. So I would suspect the death toll is much higher than the declared 500 or so people. What happened in the last 6 months, particularly after the 12-day war in June, where 30 top military officials were taken out, that was unprecedented, including 11 nuclear scientists, and the bunker busters that were dropped on nuclear facilities, and the sorties the U.S. and the Israelis initiated in Iran, where it was unprecedented as well. So that led to adding on to the strife in the country. They're going through an economic collapse right now with high inflation rates and a low value to their currency. That started these rebellions, which then escalated to chants of down with the dictator and long live the king, supporting the other component here that is an influence, and that's Reza Pahlavi, the former, the son of the former Shah, having a campaign to kind of give Iranians a choice for leadership of another Iranian, a former prince. That's kind of a sideline for the normal CIA playbook to try to destabilize from within. It adds to it, but it puts an Iranian in the front of the picture. The Israelis have also had a campaign with Netanyahu going on television announcing that they're not against, Israel is not against Iranians, they're against the current regime. So you have a perfect storm of all these components building up. You have mass protests in virtually every major city in the country.
Right, Alexander, pardon me, but I need to just butt in here. Now, this uprising began as an economic strike and not a social or cultural protest. How significant is the shift from identity-based grievances to sheer economic survival in, determining whether this movement can sustain momentum?
It becomes a war of attrition. Is the military going to beat the demonstrators to the point where they give up? They have the weapons, they have the manpower, they have the prisons, they have the threat of torture, they're using live ammunition. Although initially when we saw these protests, the amount of reported deaths was actually quite low compared to other protests in the past. So we were led to believe that perhaps the military and the security forces were caving into public demand and working against the Shah themselves. or pardon me, not the Shah, the Khomeini. It's interesting to see how this unravel, because what they will do, they will continue campaigns in the country to demoralize the demonstrator movement, probably with public executions, which Iran was famous for in the past, pulling out construction cranes and publicly hanging dissidents.
All right, Alexander, for the first time, right, we're seeing that traditional merchants and even economic elites appear to be joining the streets now. How dangerous is this for the regime, given that, these groups have historically formed the backbone of, clerical power?
Well, it shows the increase in support against the clerics. They're frustrated. They can't feed their kids. They can't. Their money is worthless, and they're now blaming the regime because the regime neglected good governance of the country. Now, keep in mind they're under strict sanctions from the U.S. and Europe, but this is a regime that spent billions of dollars supporting proxy wars against Israel, Saudi Arabia. They supported the Hamas, the Houthis, and Hezbollah, as well as other campaigns in Africa through proxy upon proxy. The publicity of this information is now being distributed, and you've got more resentment in the country. They want to change. I think anything but Khomeini is the mindset that they have.
Thank you so much, Alexander, for having this conversation with us.